So I just thought we could talk about kind of what this all looks like with leading in many states, except for two of us. But we all have different things that we do, different ways we're involved in the church and all of that. And it's just everything's changed. So I wanted to hear what it's been like with you guys and maybe some encouragement for some other leaders who are leading through it. Whoever wants to go first.
I think just the number one thing that I've been trying to do with everyone is not judge how they're grieving it or dealing with it. And I think that was, I definitely felt judgment whenever I was taking it too seriously in the beginning. And like self-quarantining, I don't even know how many weeks it's been, but almost a month probably for us, that I have literally like tried to be super serious about it, and people were kind of making fun of me. And I was like, that's the one thing that is something I don't want to bring into leadership, is anyone feeling like they don't have the space to feel however they need to feel, because it's such unprecedented situation. And as a leader, like that's the tone that you're setting, right? Like that is the tone that people are going to learn from and take their cues from. So I think it's on us as leaders in ministry to really allow that space for other people to feel however they need to feel, and you be a safe person if no one else is, to kind of talk through some of the crazies.
Yeah, I'm like a 7 on the Enneagram. I spin everything positive. So it's been really challenging for me to let people sit in it and not be like, but just think of it this way. Like, obviously, like, encouragement is good. We want to encourage people during it. We want to make sure that they know that there's hope. But I also have to be okay with letting them feel what they feel before I put a positive spin on it. But I'm trying to like dial it down and be like, yeah, let's sit here for a second. And then I'm going to show you some encouragement in a few minutes. Like,
well, I think the encouragement's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Cassandra.
Especially right now where people's normal coping mechanisms are not maybe being able to be used, or they have other external factors of job loss or being home all the time, or, going from being not just a working mom, but a working mom to now a homeschool mom with, your principal, teacher, cook, school bus driver, all of those things. And you're wearing a lot of hats. And so I think that it's okay to not be okay. And that doesn't mean that you lack hope or faith or any of that, but it's just a very weird time right now.
Stephanie, what has it been like for you? Because you lead, like, you and your husband both lead at your church, but you lead a volunteer team, which can't actually serve physically anymore. Like, what is that? How have y'all been dealing with
I lead, there's 71 greeters on our team. And so greeters, Gabby, you just described the greeters. We're encouragers, and we thrive being around people, loving people, welcoming people. And so that team, especially when you're, when you can't physically serve someone or be there to give someone a hug or shake hands, it's been really difficult. So we've had to get creative. We started some Zoom prayer times on Sunday mornings. So I'm there physically in the building, and a lot of people have just, they've really missed the building. And so for me to lead that call from the church and let them see the church, and our pastor will come by and say good morning, and just that prayer time together that we do, that's brought a lot of comfort and encouragement to them. And then what we've done is, and I love what y'all have said, is that all of us initially, you have to grieve in your own way, and giving people time to feel whatever they feel and get settled. It felt like for weeks people were just trying to figure out what was happening. Is this really happening? But now we've been creative in ways to, just making phone calls. And so people that are looking for ways, we had one lady that just went and put, filled up the bird feeders at the nursing home, and we had a food drive that you could drive through. So we're, staying in compliance, but yet, we're still able to feel like we're serving and giving. So that's been really, really encouraging and made a huge difference for sure.
I love seeing what y'all are doing at your church. Y'all are so creative. Brittany, what about you all? Because you just moved.
Yes.
So that he can take a job at a church.
It's been 7 months. Yeah. It's been really interesting. So our church's staff is still meeting because there's less than 10 of them. So they're still meeting every day. They have their own offices. So they're like in their own spaces. So they're really being compliant with that. Our state has not done a shelter in place order. So they're still compliant with that. We're working on a drive-in church. It's been really different for me because I'm technically not leading a ministry, which is the first time in a long time. But I've come alongside my husband. Obviously you can't, if your spouse is in ministry, you're in ministry. And so something that we've done, which has been incredibly helpful. We have a 9:00 Zoom call with our leadership team every single night. And we were just doing a Bible study together. And the first few weeks were kind of just like, read the Bible study, and then be done with it. And then the last few weeks we've really gotten deep, and I'm just learning about them. And it's so crazy that we've been here 7 months and I just didn't know everyone to the depth that I'm meeting them now. And it probably would not have happened as much in a face-to-face setting. And so that's been really good. We're meeting with our students at 2:00 every day for Zoom calls, just same thing. I pretty much Zoom all day long. I'm starting to see clients. I actually work at a pregnancy resource center. So we're going to start seeing clients this week over Zoom, next week over Zoom. So all the Zooms.
Crazy that I feel like I have connected more with people being home than I did before. And I don't know if it's because other distractions are removed. So now I'm just Zooming all day long with people, but
I think we're being really intentional, just making sure, checking on the well-being of our people and making sure people are okay. I'll be really honest, the first week and a half or 2 weeks, I had no idea what to do. I literally was a turtle in my shell and was not coming out. And I mean, I was still going to work, but it didn't feel normal to communicate with people, constantly scrolling, constantly just checking, looking, reading, checking, looking, reading. How close is it to us? How many people have died? Yada, yada, and really it was very overwhelming. And I felt frustrated that I was frustrated. I don't know if that makes sense. Why is this so hard? Why am I finding this so difficult? But as it's become the new normal, feeling better out of my own head, reading the same book and loving it. The first chapter, I was like, I don't want to read anymore, but anyway, it's so good. So it's getting better, just the new normal.
I think you're right though. I think it is I don't know, and y'all can speak to this too, but I feel like sometimes when you're leading in ministry, you're so focused on the tasks and the programming of your events. And now those are removed and we're intentionally focused on people, which we should have been all, you know what I mean? But there's a balance, but maybe that's what it is. Maybe I think you hit it there. What about you, Dallas? You're so involved in your church, plus you're a homeschool mom, plus you have 1 million children.
Yeah. No, I honestly, not my normal day hasn't changed. I mean, it's our evening schedule that's totally changed. Because I mean, every night we would have something that we were doing. But yeah, it's been different in ministry. I'm helping co-lead the youth right now at our church. I've been doing that for several months. And so Zoom has definitely become our best friend. And it's honestly I don't know, it's weird. So, we have all the youth together. We would get together once a week. And face to face, I don't know, sometimes they contribute, sometimes they were more so quiet, but we had our first Zoom call this week. And
they were contributing like crazy. I was like, this is the best feedback we've gotten in weeks from you guys. So I don't know, maybe they're just all so excited to finally see people and have real conversations. I don't know, but it was great. And our church has been also doing, we've been involved in doing children's messages, especially every day this week during Holy Week. So I'm helping with that with our church, doing some of those videos, which are I'm not, you guys know me, technology is not my thing. And so trying to do these videos and oh my goodness, it has been interesting trying to maneuver all that. We've been thinking about, our pastor was talking about possibly doing a drive-in church for Easter, but a lot of our medical staff at our church strongly urged against that. They didn't think it was the best idea. So we're gonna, do a live stream, and I'm doing the children's message for that. Friend in ministry, it's amazing to see. I mean, yesterday actually, I attended a funeral for the first time through the internet, and it was probably one of the saddest things to see, to not be able to come together and grieve like that. So yeah, it's just all been very different.
That's one thing that I thought about too, was like people who have lost somebody recently, and now they're having to deal with this by themselves. And like, have y'all had, like, your churches or your ministries like experienced that or reached out to those? Like, what have you done for those people? It hurts my heart so much to think that somebody is having to walk through this by themselves.
Yeah. I mean, certain things you just can't do, I wanted to so badly, of course, be there for some of my friends and go and embrace them, but you just can't. You can encourage them again with your words. It doesn't change the real feelings though that we have. But the pastor of my friend actually that passed, he has been, God bless him, going, to different people's houses and speaking with them. And so, because at the end of the day, ministry does still have to happen. And sometimes it does require a face-to-face. Yeah. And so God bless all of those, every nurse, doctor, pastors, anybody that's there still putting themselves, saying it still has to happen face to face. We don't all have the luxury of doing Zoom like this.
Yeah, and especially if you're out in the country and you don't have access to the internet, what do you do? Like, you got to go visit some of those people. Cassandra, what's it been like for you all in your church? Because I know, like, you talked about how you're just like starting to get positioned now. Like, it's a whole new world for a lot of churches. Not everybody does these live streaming things or has done it.
So I'm at a smaller church and I lead worship there. And so it has been a huge learning curve and this push to put out content, even if we weren't quite ready. I actually, though, think it's been kind of a blessing, because I think one of our biggest hangups was that we couldn't create content like a larger church. Like, it didn't look professional enough. And then all of a sudden, when you have no other option, you do what you have to do and you do the best that you can. And we've had great response. So I think for me, it's been challenging as a worship leader because we're pre-recording. And so to try to maintain social distancing, I can't have as many people in the building. And we're also doing like multiple weeks at a time on the music side of it so that we can kind of bank in case, because everything just seems to be changing so quickly that you never know, or if somebody gets sick, or you just never know if they have to self-quarantine, what's going to happen. So I'm in my head a lot because I have like a lot of services in my head going on at one time. But the thing that I've noticed is that I feel like that, at least for our people, social media has become a a place where they can now share content from the church and be encouragers and be a light in that way. Where before, you know, we had, our pastor spoke numerous times on, you know, your witness is on social media too. Like, it's not just a screen that you can hide behind. And don't get political, don't get really negative, don't, you know, say hateful things. So I've seen a turn, I think, just in social media in general, of more positivity and Christians trying to be lights right now with that.
I was wondering what you guys are doing. Sometimes when I go to put out content, just even for my personal ministry page, like, I just feel like I'm just adding to the noise. And I feel like I don't have an original thought, or maybe not something earth shattering. And like, so I don't post, and then I get frustrated that I'm not engaging. And it's like, so how do you guys push through the idea that you're just adding to the noise? Because everyone's become an online pastor or ministry leader now. So how does that work? What do you guys do to put out content that isn't the same as everyone else?
This does not answer your question, but I saw the most hilarious like meme or whatever that was like 3 days into quarantine, now everyone thinks they're an influencer.
Yeah.
True.
True.
But you can't buy anything off of Amazon because it takes 18 days now. So I don't know what they're influencing with, whatever's in their house already.
But it has kind of been like the great equalizer, I think, too, where people are more accepting of content that is not perfect. And so I think just being, for us and me personally too, I'm just trying to be genuine and know that just in real life, I'm going to be able to touch people that you're not going to be able to touch, that Gabby and like, we're all can reach different people. So even if we have some crossover in content, it's not a bad thing for people to hear uplifting or positive, or, you know, to be reinforced in that way.
I feel like
Right. Each of us have a different voice and a different platform that we've been given. And you're right, the extent of that reach is different. And perhaps if there's, you know, overlap in content, that's not a coincidence. Perhaps that's something that, you know, if somebody's hearing that same voice from you and from me, then that person, you know, for whatever reason, God's saying, I'm trying to really get this message across to you.
yeah. Ainsley, I feel like you are constantly putting out, even before this, you know, you're great.
Good content, yeah.
You're great at pumping out content. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't know about that. Sometimes I feel good about it, and sometimes I'm like, yeah, it's just a picture. Let's hope it goes well. But I think the thing that I've been doing is just writing for one person instead of trying to, I guess, like, cast a wide net. That's normally what I think I do instinctually. And I think it's like I'm putting myself in a state of mind of one person. Like, what is one person in one situation going through right now? And that content might not land with 99 people, but if that one person resonates with it, then it matters. Or it could change something with their perspective and situation. Mainly because, like, my reaction is so different than what I thought it would be. And so I think I'm not going to my normal content people, you know, like, I'm not going to my normal inspirational people that I would normally just gravitate towards. I am finding different voices that I'm following that are creating space for me. So I think for me, I'm just trying to create space for other people who probably don't normally gravitate towards me. I don't know. That probably didn't make any sense, but that's what I'm attempting to do. And just thinking of, like, people who might be in different spaces. But Gabby, what are your strategies, I guess, in this whole thing too with leadership? Because I know you're in charge of, not only do you have, like, your ministry that you're in charge of, but you have such close, like, personal relationships with girls you've mentored. Like, what has that been like?
A a lot of learning. I'm blessed. Like, I lead the women's ministry at our church, and I'm blessed with a great team of people. Now we're mainly event based, so we can't do those anymore. So that has changed. So now it's just mainly like, I'm just concerned, like all I want to do is get encouragement out to people, and I want to get content that would be helpful for them during this time. And so I don't care what that looks like. I don't care if it looks professional or not. I just want to get it out there to people and help them, because that's the only thing I can do right now besides prayer and whatnot, and doing my personal stuff. So for me, it's just checking in with people. I am getting to do something now that I wouldn't have been able to, or probably wouldn't have even thought of doing before, which is like, we have groups that are meeting digitally through Zoom or the House Party app. And we're doing the book study, Get Out of Your Head, which, Britt, you're reading. And it's phenomenal. And it's been so relevant for the here and now. But we utilize the Bible app for our ministry. So like, we got over 200 women doing the same study together that first week of being digital for us. And that was incredible. Wow. And then with the Zoom groups that we're doing, like, I'm actually going through it with the group leaders. So I'm leading a group of group leaders, and then they're leading their women. And I probably wouldn't have even thought about doing that before, but now it's like, I've got to be pouring into people. I've got to be checking in with people. And so I'm just trying to lead the leaders and just hope for the best and pray for them and their leadership. So that's kind of been my strategy with leading, is mainly just like checking in, dropping in, emailing, Zoom, all the things, just trying to stay connected with people, which is why I feel like I've connected more with people now than I have before. Yeah. And then social media wise, like, I think it's going to be hard to not just be noise, because it's so much noise. But like, I get it, because like, even with my personal page, I never posted but maybe once a month, because I only posted when I felt like I had something that was kind of on my heart that I had been walking through. And so now I actually have posted more this month than I ever have. But I literally, like, I was so worried about one of my, like, it's hard to take that step and be like, is this going to help somebody? Like, I texted Ainsley and was like, I have a post, but I keep canceling. I was listening to Max teaching, and he said that, kind of like what you said, Ainsley, like with the one, like if it reaches one person, it's successful. And so that's kind of how I've been viewing that, and just be like, okay, if this is something that I feel strongly about, that's on my heart, or that I've been walking through personally, I'm going to talk about it, and let's see if it helps at least one person. And if it does, that's all that matters. So, yeah.
Yeah. How do you think that this is going to change when we go back to normal?
Mm-hmm. I want to hear
what that looks like.
I want to hear Stephanie's answer on that, because y'all are so involved with your church. Like, I mean, your husband's on the leadership team, you're on staff. I want to hear what y'all are thinking.
I really feel like, for me and for a lot of others, that he's preparing us. And I said this to a group of ladies, I do not want to be the same person at the end of this that I was in the beginning. I really feel like if we all are the same, then we've really missed it. Because God is clearly, when he puts a stop to the world, like literally the world is stopped, there's a reason for that. Mm-hmm. So I'm just trying to go back to the basics. I'm really trying to, get those habits that I easily put aside, of quiet time and reading his word and just praying. I'm just trying to focus on that, and then just really seek him for what's to come. I really believe that when we get back together at church, I'm not really sure. I know that we in ourselves can't handle it. I feel like that our church will bust at the seams. We will have so many people that we probably won't know what to do. That's why I really feel like that God's given us this time to rest and to seek him more. So just in talking to people, our online viewers, it is, I mean, we're hitting like, 10,000. I mean, we're a church of like 1,800, but our online viewers are, I mean, it's incredible. And we've started doing some pre-service shows. So a lot of engagement with people, sending comments. And so our children's ministry has been very engaging. So I will be honest. I'm a little nervous. I'm excited, but I am like, I'm messaging the pastor the other day. I'm like, hey, can we go ahead and start working on these ideas for later when we come back together? And he goes, I'm already working on it. Stand by. That was his words. So, for me, being still is not in my vocabulary, but that's where God has me. So I'm just trying to listen to what he's saying and not rush ahead. And that's hard for us girls that are, like, I need to know what the plan is. Give me the plan.
Yeah. I love that you were talking about how it changes everything. The other day I sat down to journal and all I wrote was, this changes everything. And like nothing else, there was no other words, because I literally knew when we walk back out of our doors, everything's different. And quite honestly, I think stripping back and getting back to the very basics of connecting with the people that need the love of God, like that's our priority. And earlier when you guys were talking about audience of one, I thought it was really interesting. Ainsley and Gabby both said it, but earlier this year, actually in January, I felt like God was telling me to start writing for an audience of one. And I thought he meant him, like, which obviously he does. And I even wrote some things that were like, audience of one. And now I literally could have burst wide open. Seriously, it's just about changing the life of one person and letting that multiply into something bigger. So good stuff.
Yeah.
And I actually I'm so excited, honestly, like all of the health stuff and people losing their jobs and all that, like obviously that's devastating. But as far as church life goes, like I love that every single church has been shaken up. Like nobody can do the things that they have done before. They have to do new things. And I think it's going to change everything here on after, like not just from churches, but businesses, everything's going to be shaken up a bit. But I think once we come back, I think churches will be booming. Like Stephanie said, like, I think that's incredible. 10,000 people, like viewers online. But people are hungry for it and they need hope. And that's what we've got. We're carriers of hope. And so like, I think the church will be busting out of the seams, but I also think that we'll never do things the same. Like, I think that like for us, like our church thankfully was positioned a lot better than some of the other ones around us just because we're a little bit larger. So we already were live streaming, but we actually changed our platform a bit and made it a better experience digitally. And so like things are never going to be the same in our online church again. Like we're always going to do something a little bit different because of what we've gone through now. And so I think it's going to shake up everything. And my own, like, if I had one fear, it would be that we would go back to the same.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Well, that's on us.
Yeah.
Like, we get to choose that. So.
Yeah. And we have to focus
it's funny to say. Okay.
No, go ahead, Dallas. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No.
I was going to say, we say it changes everything, but really it changes everything but one thing, and that's God. Because throughout all of this, he never changes. And this isn't the first time, in history that something like this has happened. But God, I love that, has never changed. Whenever there's a shaking up like this, God, it's the same God that's calling for our undivided attention. And it's a good thing because he was trying to pull us closer to him. And so like Gabby said, it's kind of scary when you think about when this is all over for nothing, you know, for us to go back into everything we knew, because we shouldn't go back to the same thing. But God has caused the shaking up for something, and that's what we in this intern we should be seeking and finding. What is that, God? And whatever that message is that He's trying to get across to us, when this is all over, we can't forget that message. You know, we shouldn't go back to what we knew. We should take that message that He's been giving us and move forward with that.
What about you all, Cassandra, with your church and everything? What do you think is going to happen after all this?
Yeah.
Whenever that is.
Yeah. So I think for us, and we've talked about this as a staff, of keeping our digital presence going. Like it has, like I said earlier, it forced us to kind of just do it. And now that we're out there and we're seeing like what the reach can be, and being more intentional with getting outside of our building. So, you know, I think a lot of churches say they want to be outside of their four walls and really don't when it comes to it. And now we are forced to be. And so really looking at how we can impact our community and continue to do that once we're able to gather back together. And also Zoom has been amazing for us. So we were in the middle of a women's Bible study. I lead the women's stuff too at church, and called The Struggle is Real. And we were halfway through when we couldn't meet anymore. And so I didn't want to stop because it was, I mean, if there was ever a time that the struggle was real, it was happening right now. And so we ended up Zooming, and the ladies responded in such a way that even after it finished, I started last night with I just call it women's wellness check. And it's just like an open Zoom where we kind of get together and talk. And I think that, and I'm trying to bring like a scripture every weekend. I know right now that a lot of people are leaning into scriptures about hope and peace and comfort and, you know, not giving into fear, which I think are all great. But I was just really led to scripture about community and how even during this time, we shouldn't forsake, you know, being intentional about getting together and still encouraging each other in love. And my hope is that after this is over, for a smaller church like us, that we will be closer and have intentional relationships. So it's funny because this year we started off with a 90-day challenge. And in our 90-day challenge, we were encouraging our people to form one authentic relationship inside of the church and one authentic relationship outside of the church, where you're really doing life together and not just like, hey, we go to church together, but like doing life. And I feel like that this pandemic has given people the opportunity to pause and really focus on relationships. And so I'm excited to see that continue when we get to come back together.
Because like I know you're on staff at your church, even though you're getting ready to move, or your husband was already supposed to move, but like what do you think is gonna be like afterwards, whenever that is?
Yeah, I think that's a good question because our church is pretty huge. I mean, we're 3,000 to 5,000 people each weekend, and sometimes it hits 8 in Easter weekend. Which is obviously not going to happen. Well, I mean, in person. But I think that a new job will come out of this, which is a social media kind of person that's reaching students. So I'm specifically with students. And that was like kind of part of my description. It was just like to help out with it as high school minister. But now it is all of my job. I mean, I'm creating graphics, I'm going live, I'm posting things and trying to come up with interactive things that we can do to reach kids that aren't obviously in person with us. And I think my prayer is that it doesn't stop, because I think that we are reaching students that are too afraid to step into the church and don't feel comfortable, but they'll engage online with a devotional, which we're doing daily. And we didn't do that before. I mean, our follower count is like growing like crazy, which I don't know. I just think there's something to be said about in pouring more in online whenever we come back, because like I think programming over people has been a downfall before. And I think now we've realized, like, no, these people matter so much, and we just got to find them wherever we can. And so many of those for us are online or digital, if they're too afraid or too intimidated to walk into the door. So that's what I think is going to happen. I also have a feeling that people might fast from social media after this. Maybe. I think it'll go either way. Either people are going to be like, I'm done with it for a while, or they're going to be like extra dependent on it. And so I think it's awesome that there's so much encouragement found there right now, and there's so much Bible found online right now, on so many influencers' pages. So I think I hope that doesn't stop. I don't know. Short answer is I don't know what's going to happen.
How has this changed your, Ainsley, how has this changed your ministry with like the media and parents? Because, you know, the youth have, you know, a lot more time with that. So what kind of changes have you seen there?
Y'all, the parents are freaking out. I'm like, everybody calm down. It's okay. They've been doing this the whole time. I think that's what's kind of funny is it's almost a relief, because parents are like, oh, I didn't realize. Like, now I'm actually face to face with what they're doing every single day. Like, I mean, kids were already spending 8 hours on their phone every day. That was already happening. Now it's even more, and parents are like, oh, what's going on there? Like, what's happening? And kids are now like, okay, whoa, like suddenly I don't have any privacy. So I think parents are just kind of freaking out. Like, what do I do about this app? What do I do about this app? Is Zoom even safe? What is happening? So I'm in a lot of research, a lot. If I don't already know the answer, I'm going to obviously look it up. And there's a lot of like controversial things out there that we're trying to sort through. And I'm like, man, if we can just take a step back and be like, everything will be okay. The most important things on social media are the conversations you're having with your kids in person anyway.
Yeah.
So take a step back from your panic of social media and have those face-to-face conversations with your kids, and everything's going to be okay. Yeah, sheer panic on the parents' front.
That's fun.
I love that. Does anybody else have any thoughts on the topic or topics?
Well, how are y'all feeling or seeing, just in marriages, even in your own personal, everybody's stuck at home together, everyone's working together, everyone's together every day.
It's great. It's fantastic. We're just so happy. We've never been more connected than we are right now. We're just doing so good.
Oh, that just makes me feel so good.
I also might have said, leave me alone for 2 hours last week. Not my husband, everyone. Like, I'm going upstairs. Don't talk to me. Don't look at me. Don't ask me for a snack. Like, leave me alone. So that's how it's going.
I'll be honest. I told my husband, so we just moved to a new house in October. We were in a duplex that we own. And so the living and dining in this new house is the whole size of what we were in before. So I told Ryan, I was like, I am so thankful that we moved to this bigger house before we had to stay home all day. because we would not have made it if we were in closer proximity. Thankfully, so he has, I'm looking like he's here, but he's not, but I'm looking in his direction. He has an office downstairs and mine is upstairs. So throughout the workday, like our kids are here most of the time and picks them up, and we'll have a few hours a day to work and just work. And so it's actually been really lovely. Like we've not had too many arguments, no more than usual, because we have our own spaces. And so I think that's been our saving grace. If we were in the other house, somebody would not have survived. And that, so, but yeah, so it's been interesting. That's for sure.
I think our communication has changed. We've just been much more open and honest with each other. Like, you know, this isn't working or whatever. And it's not bad. I was just joking, but it is different. It's different. You're just in a new territory, and in ministry, he's in full-time ministry, and like they are working so much harder than they ever have. And so it's just been trying to find a balance, and I had to be really honest with him about needing help with the kids, because I'm working too, and trying to figure out how to homeschool and not homeschool. Listen, it's really more like no schooling, or like keeping them busy so they don't murder each other. But just being honest, just being like, hey, I need your help. And he just jumped right in. And this week's been so helpful. And so, man, it's been cool to kind of watch how we don't have any other option than to just be brutally honest right now.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that too. Like,
my husband still, okay. I got it.
No, you're fine.
My husband's still working, so it hasn't really changed much again on that front with us. He's an essential employee. So he's still not here a lot, but honestly, this has been one of our best. I mean, we're coming up on 15 years of marriage, and God has just worked in amazing ways in and through our marriage, and just through my husband. And my husband started a Bible study a couple months ago, and just crazy. But so, you know, now like seeing him keep up with his Bible study on Zoom. But I don't know, I was like, we are not going to allow this pandemic to create chaos in our marriage. We have come so far in the last 15 years. We are not stopping that now. And the only thing that has really gotten crazy is when I come home from the grocery store, and he is like a crazy man with the spray and the groceries outside. And I'm like, who are you? He's like, oh my goodness. Like, we live in the country, so our neighbors aren't close, thank goodness. But I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like, I don't know. He was just crazy the other day with the groceries, spraying every little thing. Telling the kids, don't touch anything. Don't touch it until I spray. And I'm like, you need to calm down right now. We are not going to allow this.
That's funny. We created a fake coworker that we blame everything on. So her name is Mary. I don't know why Justin said that name, but she hasn't done the dishes in a couple of days, and she's slacking. And it's like, we're like, dang, Mary seriously needs to step it up. Like, Mary is not putting their chips back. She's just not doing it. She's like the coworker that heats up salmon in, you know, the break room. So that's kind of been funny, because you like can't even get mad because you're laughing at a fake person. That's helpful if anybody needs a tip.
I love it.
I'm about to hire a fake coworker tomorrow.
Look, it seriously helps.
Yeah, we need one for
Where
sure.
is she?
Well, Andy blames Shayna, which is so sad because she lives next door. She's more mature than both of us together. So, but I think what's been hard for us is that when we first went into this, I said, no, we really have to make sure that we like each other. Like, you know, we're always going to love each other. We know that, but we really need to like each other so that this is more enjoyable. But I think for me though, I've been a little bit bitter because his work has like tripled, not doubled, but tripled. And now I can see it more. Whereas before I had other things to distract me. You know, I had my own projects, my own events. And now I just see that he's really like glued to his computer for 10 to 12 hours a day. And so when he's finished, he doesn't really have anything left to give. So I'm a little bitter right now about that. And, you know, it's not his fault. And he works so hard, and he's the guy that everybody wants because he makes everything look amazing, and he can do it all. And I mean, last week we were over at one of my greeters. She's a widow, and he was fixing her weed eater and her light bulb. And, you know, and then he's taking care of our home. And then, but he's, you know, he's on the computer. So when he's off the computer, he's not the fun, crazy husband that I love hanging out with. He's not really, he doesn't want to hang out, you know, he's tired. So we're just trying to figure that all out right now. So yeah.
I can relate to that. My husband is still working full-time and more than full-time. His job has increased, not decreased. And then mine too. And poor guy, I'm also about to be 33 weeks pregnant. So he is dealing with all of the nesting and like needs that I have too, and his honey-do list. But I think we're trying to figure out our new normal because so my mom lives with us, and she also is still, she works in the school system, and so her job hasn't slowed down. But the one thing we don't have right now is like, I have a 2.5-year-old, and usually my mother-in-law helps, and she's not coming over. So now, even though there's 3 adults in the house, 2 to 3 adults in the house at all time, we're all working. So trying to figure out, poor, you know, Iris has gotten more screen time and better independent play. But yeah, we definitely haven't had any much downtime, and if anything, I think the stressors of our jobs have kind of maybe put us on a little bit of an edge. So just being really honest with when frustrations come and needing to vent, being like starting off the conversation with, this is not really about you. So, but I need to get this out, and my tone may not be the most pleasant right now. And then, you know, getting into that. So I can relate to a very busy hubby, and not being the normal that I'm used to. So
I feel the same way. I've got that too, because my husband is a leader in our church as well. So I lead the women's ministry. He leads students. He oversees groups and kids a little bit. And so now, I mean, he's gone a couple of nights a week to film because they're trying to do stuff with the students. So yesterday they did like an Easter drive-by for the students. So they literally like got on Instagram Live, and if kids answered a question right, they drove by their house and threw out some Easter stuff and like fun stuff, but not for me because I'm home with the girls. And so like he's having to film more. He's doing welcomes for Sunday morning, so they have to film those today. And then like he also got other things added to his job. And so now he's helping with social media, just in general, not just the students anymore. And so it's a lot. It's like I had said, like online ministry is like increased our jobs, and doing it this way has been so much extra. And so the first couple of weeks, it's been, I mean, it's not been smooth sailing since then, but it was just figuring out like a new rhythm and all of that. But it's also been kind of nice to be home for me. Like it's been enjoyable. So my mood is probably a little better. Like if we were at the office and he was having to do more of this stuff, I would probably be way more ticked than I am right now. But I think it's just because I feel a little bit more at ease.
Mhm.
So yeah, but it's definitely increased both of ours, but especially his, and it's just been interesting to see and to experience. Well, I know in our staff, there are some jobs that are just, I mean, they have nothing to do right now, but our leadership is redistributing everybody. Everybody's getting a new job description for this time. And so I still don't know what that means yet, even for me. But I do at least appreciate that like they see, like they know, not everybody is having to do stuff. And it's like, I think even at our staff meeting virtually the other day, he was like, if you feel like this is a vacation, it's not. So please be engaging. But I mean, there are some, like, that you literally can't do what you were supposed to do. But they recognize that and they're redistributing responsibilities. Now, not everybody can still be able to pull all the same weight, because there's some that just have to have particular skills and they don't have that. And so eventually it's going to cap somewhere, and somebody's going to take the brunt of the weight. But yeah, so I mean, I get that. Like, I totally get that, but I'm thankful that, people are seeing that and redistributing where necessary.
Yeah.
So we have a really small staff. Obviously, at a small church, there's only 4 of us, but I have been very blessed that everyone's trying to carry equal weight and learning and taking what we can. And we even we're sharing posting on social media and stuff. But I think for us, it was less about internally making sure, people feeling like that we knew what we were doing, but we wanted to make sure that our congregation knew that we were still there for them, still engaged with them. So we've just been really transparent. I will go live from a staff meeting or take a picture, because we decided, based on our governor, we decided to go completely off the premises for 2 weeks based on the recommendation of our governor. And so just snapping a little, screenshot or sharing hey, we're still working from home, we're working for you, and we want people to know. And I think that's been hard, because for us, especially in a climate right now where people's finances that is a huge challenge, and yet the church still has to run, and we're still doing ministry, and we're still on staff there. So, some of are on it, just to be honest, our salaries are dependent on giving in some way. So I think there was some pressure for us to make sure that they saw that we were still there. And so I don't think that it was necessarily coming from them. I think that, we created a lot of it in our heads, but it has allowed us to be really transparent with our people about what we do and just sharing our everyday. And I think ultimately that's going to be a huge connector, because I think when we were meeting live, a lot of times, like we've said before, especially Gabby, like you said, we were so caught up in making sure that everything ran smoothly and that we weren't necessarily connecting genuinely with our people, even though we wanted to, but we just wanted to make sure that it was a good experience, that church was a good experience for everyone. And so now they're seeing us in our homes and seeing us and we're meeting in the fellowship hall for staff so that we, are social distancing. And it's been kind of cool. And our children's pastor, we were talking last night, and she was saying, she's new. And she said at the beginning of this, she's only been here since February. So she was like, I was really disappointed because I felt like it was slowing down all of the work that I had done. But in actuality, it's allowed me to connect with because we're in a lower income area and we're still doing meals and things. She has phone numbers now of parents, and she's talking to them on a regular basis and getting to witness to them, where before it was just more of hey, we're picking your kids up on a bus, we're going to take them for programming, and then we're going to drop them back off, and not having the time. So I think that's been cool.
Awesome. Anybody else have any last thoughts or questions?
I guess my question for us is, I know we want to keep it positive, and maybe we don't want to end it on a bad note, but what's been a struggle? Like what do you think has been your biggest struggle right now? And how have you handled?
I think for me, the biggest struggle is just knowing when this is over. Like the unknown is probably the hardest thing to handle. I think I'm an adventurer. Like I want to be out doing stuff. And so the sameness of every day has really weighed on me. And last week, like Groundhog's Day, you're just going to get up and it's going to be the same thing again, over and over. And just really trying, I wish like there was a date, like on May 1st, this will all be over and you can go back and be with humans and, it'll be so great. And like, if there was an end date, then I would be doing a lot better, I think.
I second that. I can do anything if I have a day to go, like day 1, day 2, I'm down, I like to count my days or have a plan.
Right. I'm always like, I can do anything for a month. I can do anything for 7 hours.
But like knowing that we're going to come back together or, we need to be ready by this date,
Yeah.
My biggest struggle.
Part of our faith, though, right, is like not knowing the plan. I was just talking to my pastor about that the other day when I said, I honestly probably never once in my life have ever been surprised by people, like try to throw me surprise parties or showers or whatever. I've always known because I always have a way of finding out, but with God, we can never like peek. We can't find that way to like peek ahead. Like what? Just give me a little hint here.
Yeah.
And so that's hard.
I think maybe my biggest struggle is not gaining a ton of weight during this. Just kidding. That is a struggle, but I'm just. But that's,
13, 15.
I honestly, I hate to say this because I know so many people are like, blah, but like, I'm loving this time right now. So I'm totally fine if it stays this way forever. And that's shocking to me because like I'm an extrovert. I love hanging out with people, but for some reason, I'm just like, I'm loving this. Now, I feel like though the biggest struggle is I want to be able to do more for people, but I can't, or I don't know how. Like my finances can only go so far, and I can't physically go out necessarily and be with a ton of people right now to help them. So finding ways to serve people is one of my biggest struggles right now because I want to do more, and I just don't know always how I can do that. And then of course with leadership, figuring it out digitally is a challenging thing. But I would say those are my biggest struggles because honestly, I'm over here like loving this current pace of my life. So I'm really sorry because not everybody does, but I'm loving it.
I think mine is just a general, like, I'm a very trusting person. Like, I naturally just trust you. If I meet you, I'm like, I don't know. I trust you until you break my trust, which honestly is pretty hard to do. And I think the struggle for me is that there is such a general mistrust of everyone around you. Like, physically, right? You're going to the grocery store and you're like, do you have it? Do you have it? Are you asymptomatic and you're giving it to me? And I think like, I hate that. I hate that going in public is such a sketchy thing. Like, it's just like fearful. I guess I hate that it's like so many people are fearful, rightfully so. I mean, we can't see this thing, right? It's not like everyone who has it turns into a Smurf. Or we're like, oh, you're blue. I'll know to stay away from you. Like it doesn't, I think that's what kills me is like, I just generally have a sunny disposition in people in general. And I'm like, I want to make friends at the grocery store, whoever I'm in line with, I'm going to talk to you and you're going to be my friend, whether you like it or not. And you can't do that. Like, we were at the grocery store last night, I think. And oh my gosh, I could cry thinking about it. But this guy like couldn't pay for all of his groceries. And I was like hearing him. And I was like, all I want to do is like pay for his groceries. And I was trying to figure out like how I could do that without getting close enough to talk to him, because I'm not going to shout it, right? From 6 feet away. I'm not going to be like, I can see that you can't buy your groceries. Can I buy them for you? Mm-hmm. And because I didn't want to embarrass him, and I don't know. And it ended up being like the girl who was checking him out helped him and kind of gave him a couple of things for free, which was so awesome. But I was just like, if no one was afraid, I would be like, yo, just why don't you just get your groceries? Like, no big deal. But I was like, he didn't have a mask on. I didn't have a mask on. I couldn't talk to him. I couldn't do anything. And I'm sure there's ways around it. I was just trying to think in the moment, right? Like, this is all happening in real time. I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And so I think that's my biggest struggle. And just seeing old people in public, I'm just like, I just cry immediately because I'm like, oh my gosh, you're putting yourself in harm's way so you can survive and like eat. And I want to be able to help you so bad.
Yeah. I think that fear for me has been a huge struggle. Like I said, I am pregnant, so I'm considered high risk, and trying to reconcile what I can do for people without being around people. Like, I have really tried to put myself in a bubble. And that's been, I don't like that. I just don't like the feeling that I have. I have felt helpless in the fact that I can't, like, our church is still doing ministries, but I have to kind of do it from afar because I can't, go and deliver the groceries or, drive the women, whatever that is happening. And so, and trying to not live in fear of something happening to me or to the baby, I think has been hard. So, it's just a difficult time, and but at the same time, like, allowing myself to feel how I feel and not trying to beat myself up too much about it. And then doing all the, things that I can do of talking to people and listening to worship music and being in the Word and just trying to be my own little self-encourager and not let my inner critic take me down too far of a of a negative path. So
I think that's important to, like, everybody should give themselves some grace because nobody's been here before, and give everyone else grace because they haven't been here either.
Yeah.
I mean, and plus, we know the God who holds the whole world in his hand. Mm-hmm. Every single of our worlds in his hand. And but just allowing ourselves that space and giving ourselves that grace that, like, it's okay if we feel this way. Mm-hmm. And let's just feel it. Let's process it. Let's give it over to God, and then let's move on.
Well, and it gives us a chance. God loves to hear our honest feelings. He knows them, but he loves for us to have that conversation with him. And through that, it brings us closer. I mean, it's just like, like when we share with our spouse, how we're feeling, like you were saying, Brittany, just being honest, say what you're, how you feel. But I love that how God, he's so full of grace, and he so loves to talk with us about those feelings. And I think that's so important. And a lot of times, or I know for me, the way I was raised, a lot of people around me, they were not taught that. Like, you never shared your true feelings to God, like you were angry or you were doubting. Like, And how crazy is that? That's not even who God is, because that's not, he wants that intimate relationship. So I think that's just, I like to remind myself of that, and then also others. So grace is just a beautiful, beautiful word. Love it.
I feel good about that. Is there really?
Yeah.
It there. I'm good.